Ah, marijuana. Such a beautiful, versatile plant. It can be used to make clothes, treat epilepsy, and help you, chill. It can also make a lot of money. With weed being legalized or decriminalized in more places than ever, cannabis is becoming the world's newest cash crop, even in places where it's extremely illegal.
In China, using and growing marijuana are strictly illegal, but here in Yunnan, Jianyi, a town in South China, around me there are hundreds of acres of legal cannabis.
Cannabidiol or CBD is a chemical compound that can be extracted from the cannabis plant. Believers think it could treat all kinds of ailments, but it doesn't get you high. It's already a massive industry in the US, where researchers estimate the market could be worth tens of billions of dollars in the next few years. Even though its use is strictly prohibited here, China is poised to be one of the world's leading exporters of CBD, and so far, companies here have been given a lot of leeway to produce it.
But if we look at other emerging industries in China, like online payments or cryptocurrency, CBD seems to be part of a new model for growth sectors in the country. At first, companies proliferate in a wild frenzy to get in on the game. But the bigger the industry gets, the more likely it is that the Chinese government will step in and begin heavily regulating it. Cannabis is booming, and those in the business are waiting to see what stance regulators will take. We're traveling around the world to find out how China is changing basically everything. This week, cannabis. I'm Nikhil Sonat in New York.
And I'm Tony Lin in Yunnan province.
And you're watching Because China. Since the US began loosening regulations on CBD, American farming of hemp, what cannabis is called when it contains very little THC, the stuff in weed that does get you high, has exploded. From around 32,000 acres planted in 2018 to over 140,000 today.
China, meanwhile, has seen its own expansion.
我们的这个种植面积一年比一年都在翻倍的在扩增。
This is Han Shengfeng, one of the oldest legal wheat farms in Yunnan, a province in southern China that borders Myanmar and Vietnam. Since 2010, the local government has allowed some farmers here to grow hemp for things like textiles and paper. And in 2017, China gave the first license allowing a company to extract CBD. Now, China has over half of the world's cannabis patents, and the latest estimate of total hemp production in China put it right with the US, between 100,000 and 132,000 acres. This is Liu Yang, manager of the 6-year-old farm. They used to only grow hemp for textiles. But for the past 3 years, it has grown a different strain of cannabis called Yunnan hemp No. 7, optimized for CBD extraction.
第一个，我们可以通过它上面看它这个结晶体，如果越发的它的结晶体看着越多的话，它里面的含量肯定会越高，而且通过它的气味你可以闻，气味越浓的话。 它这个含量肯定会越高。
The harvested flowers are chopped down, air-dried, and sold to processing factories. Each of Han Shengfeng's 1,100 acres of hemp produces enough for roughly 24 pounds of CBD, around $40,000 to $50,000 worth once processed.
搞 CBD 提取的这几个厂家，他们对我们的需求量很大，那就证明他们提炼出来的 CBD 在国际市场上很好销。
One of the farm's biggest clients is HempSol, a subsidiary of Hanma Investment Group, the first Chinese company given a license to extract CBD. Tan Xin is the company's chairman.
大家都知道是世界工厂嘛，从提取加工来说呢，中国有整体的供应链的优势、成本优势、人员财务成本的优势。
Unlike its competitors worldwide, Hanma is attempting to control everything from cultivation to extraction. Loosening regulations in China place them in a strong position to compete internationally. Hanma partners with several farms in Yunnan, owns 1,000 additional acres of crops, and has CBD extraction plants in both China and Nevada.
中间这个呢是我们结晶出来的一个成品吧，我们的纯度呢能够达到99.9%。我们这边年产量就3吨。
3吨它在业界是一个什么样的概念？
目前据我所知是在国内是最大的。
All the CBD oil they produce gets exported overseas, mostly to North America. Cannabis is illegal in China. Using it will land you in jail. Selling it could lead to a death penalty. But the plant actually has a long history in China. Cannabis comes from Central Asia, and the earliest evidence of people smoking it comes from Western China. It's been used in traditional Chinese medicine for thousands of years. Here's an excerpt from the classic of herbal medicine, believed to have been written around the year 200.
多时令人见鬼狂走，久服通神明轻身。And throughout China, no place has more experience with the plant than Yunnan.
云南它这个地理位置啊，在全球来讲属于一个低纬度、高海拔的一个地方。我们这儿的彝族、瑶族，它都有自用这个大麻的习惯。
Yunnan's special relationship with cannabis is a reminder that parts of the Chinese economy are not as strictly controlled by the national government as you might think.
The more decentralized, devolved, and less regulated part of the economy, that is also still a very huge part of the Chinese economy and has great effects. And I think that the cannabis sector is representative of that.
This is Rosalind Xue,
Hello.
a professor who studies economic regulation in China. She says that in new industries like cannabis, decisions are made by local governments.
Because it's a sector that is new and emerging with little regulatory framework around it, these local authorities also have more room to maneuver for good or bad of the local economy and also local interest.
Yunnan has every reason to support cannabis. As the second poorest province in China, it's in dire need of new economic opportunities.
玉米的话，它1亩地可能现在就是800到1000块钱。老百姓如果种这个东西的话，1亩地可以拿到2000多块钱，而且它干起来特别轻巧。
Cannabis is an untapped market, and it's more lucrative than other crops. In October, Yunnan's provincial investment group put 500 million renminbi, a little more than $70 million into a state-owned company that will develop the local cannabis industry into the new backbone of the local economy. The lack of regulation has led to proliferation. At the beginning of this year, several Chinese companies began associating themselves with cannabis. Their stocks skyrocketed as a result.
Still, parts of the cannabis industry are tightly regulated.
中国政府的红线是很清楚的，它是把 THC 3%以下的标准，这是一条非常严格的一条管控线。
Even with such small amounts of THC, CBD extraction is closely watched. Anti-narcotics police monitor every step of hemp sal's extraction process and even dispose of residue themselves. That's why nearly all of China's CBD companies need to emphasize the medicinal uses of cannabis, like treating depression, anxiety, and epilepsy. If that gets approval, China's domestic CBD market could explode.
癫痫病人呢，在中国呢，将近是900万人；抑郁人口在中国将近有9000万。所以每一个病种都是应该是上千吨的 CBD 或大麻素的应用。所以我认为大麻整个在生物制药领域里头，未来中国是世界上最大的市场。
Other companies are pushing the boundaries of what is meant by medical cannabis. This hemp seed energy drink is sold in nightclubs and is marketed for relaxation and stress relief. These companies are hoping to get a head start, betting that the government and market will become more tolerant of cannabis products. But that's a big gamble.
I would not be surprised that we will see regulation that will develop around, different uses of cannabis.
Even though Yunnan has loosened rules on CBD production, the national government can always step in and draw a line in the sand. The bigger this industry gets, the more likely that is. Just look at what happened in mobile payments. In the 2000s, the industry was largely unregulated in China. Alibaba's Alipay amassed hundreds of millions of users, even though technically it was collecting money in a legal gray area because it didn't have a bank license. Eventually, the government stepped in, and now all online payments have to go through the central bank. The same thing happened with crypto. Last year, the government banned burgeoning cryptocurrency exchanges before announcing that it would release its own state-backed digital currency.
And officials have already reined in cannabis companies once. When cannabis-related stocks climbed too high, regulators told the companies to warn investors that the industry was risky. The stocks plunged as a result. With CBD, China is on nearly equal footing with the US and the rest of the world in terms of manufacturing capacity and know-how.
But CBD highlights the many paradoxes of China's economy today. Cannabis is taboo, but places like Yunnan want it to thrive. Deregulation is often followed by more regulation. Big companies and investors are pouring money into an industry with huge potential, but doing so might draw attention and lead to stricter rules or centralization.
Whether or not the industry succeeds will depend on how well it can navigate those paradoxes.
You're watching a Quartz member exclusive, part of our series Because China. Stay tuned to find out how China's changing everything from tourism to music to trash.